Hey, what is up guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we got the showcase and gameplay of Dory. So let's get straight into the video. So as you can see here, we have Dory as a 5-star rank 5. I just want to do a quick disclaimer that I'm part of the Kabam creator program. So basically every single month I get the 2 featured guardians onto my account for a limited amount of time before they take them away, so I can do videos and do content for you guys. So I get them for a couple of days, I make content and they take it away from my account, so I'm not benefiting in any way. So we're just going to go straight into it. We're going to go over the core ability first. So when Dory is inflicted with a damaging debuff, she gains a forgetful charge for 3 seconds. So cleansing all damaging debuffs from her allies on expiry. Cleansing all damaging debuffs from her allies on expiry. This effect can only occur once every 7 seconds. Now what's a forgetful charge? A stackable token generated by Dory that cleanses all damaging debuffs from her and allies when it expires. So every 7 seconds this applies, it cleanses all damaging debuffs from her and all your allies. So Dory is immune to focus buffs and focus debuffs. So this is a negative thing but also a positive thing as well. Dory's heavy attack can hit and knock back all enemies in a wide arc in front of her. This knockback does not affect bosses. So her heavy attack is actually really big, so you can scoop up all these enemies and just knock them back in a huge area. You'll see on screen now how big the actual range for this heavy attack is. So it's really good when you're in a fight, there's a lot of enemies and you just want to knock them all back. The range on this heavy attack is very big, so that's a good positive thing to have. Now overall, her core ability is decent. The forgetful charge is quite important when cleansing all those debuffs off yourself and all of your allies. So we're going to move on to the special ability. So the special ability, all other allies heal 2.5% health each second for 6 seconds. Dory knockbacks all enemies around her during this time, and Dory gains a second wind buff for 8 seconds. When this effect expires, she heals for 60% of the damage taken. So when you throw a special attack for 8 seconds, all the damage you take, 60% of that damage will be instantly regened back. That's what the second wind buff is. It's just a safety net. During that time, 60% of the damage taken, it will instantly be regenerated back to you. So that's quite good as well. Now the signature ability, Dory gains 15% defense at the start of each encounter. The potency of Dory's second wind buff from her special ability is increased by an additional 5%. So you're going to regenerate more of the health back, 5% more. And this is at level 1. So we're going to move this all the way up to level 100. So at level 100 you get 50% defense at the start of the encounter instead of 10%. And also the second wind buff potency is from 5% all the way to 35%. So add in your special ability, the potency of that is 60%, and once you get to level 100 on your signature ability, you add those together and that is 95% potency for the second wind buff. So you're going to regenerate, you're going to heal back 95% of your health taken during that 8-second period after your special ability. That is really good. This is good for all different fights. You know, you're in a situation where Dory's just getting absolutely destroyed by different enemies. Having this second wind buff, regenerating 95% of the damage taken during this period, that is really good, like really good. So moving on to the talents, the basic ones is grants more health and also defense. So these ones are not as important. So starting with the first advanced one, Dory gains 50% armor for each damaging debuff cleansed from her by her forgetful charge. So she gains basically 15% armor every 7 seconds. That's every time the forgetful charge actually works. Every 7 seconds she get 50% armor, but obviously you need to be in a fight where all your allies and Dory herself are gaining damaging debuffs. So once you cleanse them, you gain armor. So that's pretty good as well. And this increases as you level up this talent. So our next talent, the first time an enemy hits Dory, each combat they receive a minus 15% focus debuff for 15 seconds. So this stacks up 3 times. This effect can be triggered every time a forgetful charge on her expires, every 7 seconds. Dory's special ability lures all ranged enemies for 8 seconds. So luring all the ranged enemies, she's a good counter towards them. All the ranged enemies are focused on Dory, so your other guardians are safe. Dory's just going to regenerate 95% of that damage. So that's pretty good as well. So moving on to the next one. Enemies that hit Dory with a critical hit receive a minus 42% critical damage debuff for 8 seconds. When Dory activates her special ability, she cleanses root from all allies. So she's a root counter. Really good. We need more of those in the game because dungeons, there's a lot of root. Also lots of different quests with lots of root guardians. And also in the story quest, they got the root like explosive bombs. So they are very annoying. So this is good as well. And minus 42% critical damage debuff. This is really good. So moving on to her elite talent. Dory resists 6.8% damage from ranged enemies. When Dory activates her special ability, she gains a forgetful charge for 3 seconds. Some more forgetful charges. Instead of every 7 seconds, every time you activate a special ability, you gain the forgetful charge again. So you're going to be able to cleanse all those debuffs. You're going to be able to gain some armor as well. So this is very good. And she resists basically 7% damage from ranged enemies, so she's a very good ranged enemy counter. So guardians like Gaston, Magnificent, she's going to be great against them. Moving on to traits, she's a Seafaring, High Tech, Goofball and Pixar. Those are some insanely good traits to have. Seafaring, great trait to have. High Tech, amazing trait to have. Both towers. Goofball, very good as well. There's a lot of rumours going about that there will be a Goofball tower coming soon, and also a Pixar one as well. So if both of these come out, she's going to have 4 different traits and 4 different towers. That is amazing. So her traits are great. Overall she's good. I think her biggest issue is she's not going to be as good as some support guardians in the game, but overall she's very decent. Her special ability and her forgetful charges and the way she gains armor is very good. And we're just going to go straight into some gameplay now. So we're now in some gameplay, and as you can see, we're going to be using Maui and Ariel with Dory. Now you want to be using Dory, you want to control Dory because she's one of those type of guardians that you need to control to get the full potential out of her. So as you can see, we just gained armor. That's because of the forgetful charges and Have We Met talent being activated. And you can see we've currently got debuffs on us. When the forgetful charges expire, you can see that you just gain the armor, and you can see the timer. That's the cooldown timer, the 7 seconds timer before it activates again. So you can see every time we use a special, all our allies are gaining some health back. That's a really good addition to Dory's abilities, and you can see we're gaining all that armor. And Dory's nearly got full health of armor, which is really good. I wish she was able to give armor towards other allies. And as you can see, we've got the law activated because of range guardians. That's one of the talents. And basically during that time, 65% of the damage taken will be regenerated back to you. Because I only have Dory at level 1, it's 65%. But it goes up to 95% when you have Dory at level 100. Her Sintra ability. As you can see, we're gaining all that regen. I wish Dory could regenerate as well, but she can't. She just obviously has a safety net of having the second wind buff and regenerating 65% of the health taken. But overall, she's pretty decent. She gains some decent amount of armor, and she also gives a decent amount of regeneration to your other allies in the actual fight itself. Her heavy attack is pretty decent. What you kind of want to do is have Dory in the middle of your 2 guardians. So obviously when you have like the ranged guardians attacking Dory, she'll be resisting 22% of that damage, and at the same time you're not going to hit your guardian in the back. So someone like Violet you might have in the back, who is kind of the guardian that you don't want to get hit. So having someone like Dory is just an extra layer of protection, where she can get hit by someone like a ranged guardian, she can absorb all that damage and regenerate some of it back, and then also get some armor. So overall she's decent. So we're in a new fight now, and we're just going to put some gameplay on in the background while we talk about her different counters, how to use her, and discuss some of her talents. So we're going to start with one of the advanced ones, Blinding Optimism. Enemies that hit Dory with a critical hit receive a minus 50% critical damage debuff for 8 seconds. So minus 50% critical damage debuffs are really good. It's just going to decrease the amount of critical damage you're going to take, which is really good when you're using Dory and you're in a situation where you're getting hit by a ranged guardian and you don't have your second wind buff currently activated. So you're going to resist some of that damage from ranged guardians, but at the same time they're not going to deal as much damage to you. So that's pretty good. So you can see in this fight, we're currently taking a lot of damage, and the biggest issue with Dory, if you're not in a fight where there's lots of debuffs, you're just going to take so much damage. You're not going to gain any armor, and when you've got the second wind buff activating, sometimes it's unreliable and you just get hit so hard that you don't even get to regenerate 65% of your health back, let's say. So there is some issues with Dory, and there's quite a lot of issues, to be honest, and she's not the best support guardian in the game overall. She's decent, she has her uses, but overall there are much better options out there. So we're going to talk about what allies are best paired with Dory. Dory is great with tanks that generate a lot of armor, since she can reliably keep damage and debuffs off of them. Wooly or Baymax are also great choices, and you can bring someone like Judy Hopps or Aladdin, who really do well at scoring critical hits, since Dory's focus debuffs will make targets more vulnerable to critical damage. So obviously your guardians such as Aladdin and Judy Hopps are just going to do so much more damage to all the enemies. So what does Dory counter? So Dory is a great all-round counter to ranged enemies, but especially any that rely on damage and debuffs, so like Gaston or Magnificent. Dory is great against those sort of enemies. So how do you defeat Dory? Who's the best counter? Dory's weakness is heal block. Obviously, if you have heal block, Dory's second wind buff is just not going to activate. You're going to take so much damage and you're not going to be able to regenerate any of it back. So that is a big issue with her. If you get a heal block, it's basically game over. So guardians such as Captain Hook or Stitch are really good to prevent the second wind buff from activating. So what is Dory's playstyle? How do you play her to the best of her ability? So Dory works best as a midfielder, sitting somewhere between your front line and back line. Will get the most out of her special ability by intercepting projectiles headed for your back line, which is made all easier if you take her great first impression talent. So that's the talent on screen now. If you aren't directly controlling Dory, she should take up that midfield position automatically. So she automatically goes in between your two guardians. Take advantage of her wide heavy attack, obviously, which has the knockback. And basically you just want to keep her in the midfield. So overall, Dory is a pretty decent guardian. She has her weaknesses compared to some other support guardians. She's not as good overall. I would say she's an okay addition to the game. She's good for a lot of towers, so if you have her, you should definitely take her up a little bit and see if you have any other options for different towers. If you don't, she is a good alternative, but overall she's good but not great. Not compared to someone like Violet, who is like 20 times better. So that's it for today's video. If you did like it, please leave a like and subscribe for more. Also follow my Twitter down below in the description, where I post updates and video ideas and stuff that I'm going to be working on in the future. Anyways, I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.